Dear devotees, as you all know, we are having Sister Nivedita's 155th year birthday celebrations in Éire Vedanta Society. We will start this beautiful celebrations from Peter and his group from devotional singing or bhajans. Welcome, Peter and group. Yeah.
Thank you, Swami. Thank you for this invitation. We're very happy to join in this special anniversary event. And to begin singing, we will remember this prayer. It is by thy grace that we sing thy holy name. Yes. our second song for Ramakrishna, you might know Om Mata Om Kali, the devotion to Kali. Om Mata Om Kali Durga Devi Namo Namah. 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 Hey Mata Kali, hey Mata Durga. 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 Kali Durga Namo Namah. 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 Om Mata Om Kali Durga Devi 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 Namo Namah. Hey Mata Kali, hey Mata Durga. 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 Kali Durga Namo Namah. 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 Om Mata Om Kali Durga Devi Namo Namah.
Thank you very much to Chai Chant here. As always, very, very energizing and mesmerizing. We now have a welcome and introductory talk by our very own Swami Purnanandji. I don't think he needs any introduction. You're very welcome, Swamiji.
Well, the welcome part is very easy. Welcome to our Nivedita house, obviously named for our beloved Nivedita, Sister Nivedita, born in Ireland, in Dungannon. How many people here have visited Dungannon? Oh, at least 3 or 4, that's okay. More, you should all visit Dungannon. Why? Because we view Dungannon as a kind of pilgrimage place here in Ireland. A remarkable woman was born there. Supposing you didn't know anybody, or you didn't know a person by name or their history or anything, and they were a significant contributor to the field of women's education throughout a region. Let us say, it doesn't matter the region, but any region, somebody like that. Supposing that same person was involved in empowerment, particularly our topical subject today, that is women. Supposing that person endorsed and encouraged and appreciated authentic cultural national art. Supposing that person was involved in encouraging such talented people as innovative scientists. Supposing that person promoted science and art. Supposing that person was an awakener of a country's national consciousness, we would surely herald such a person as a great hero or heroine. So far, we didn't mention whether it is a man or a woman. In this case, it is a woman. It is our Sister Nivedita, born Elizabeth Margaret Noble. Swami Vivekananda, marking out all her qualities. Sincere to the backbone, well-educated, a list of whole qualities. Had this to say, above all else, the quality that he admired in her was her Celtic blood. And it's often been the subject of speculation, what did he mean by this? And so we have to do a little bit of history. First of all, there are great similarities between this country, Ireland, and India, both under colonial rule, both majority people in some way or other oppressed. And not only that, but both suffering from famine and suffering the intransigence of the ruler. And so there's a remarkable synergy between these two countries. But above all, to address these problems required a certain feistiness, a certain courage, a certain fortitude that Swami Vivekananda himself obviously had. When we look at Swami Vivekananda and his posture and all the things he said, strength comes through to us. And we can view Sister Nivedita as an extension of Swami Vivekananda. In fact, when a plaque was opened in Wimbledon, recognizing her stay there, Swami Dayatmananda, the current Swami, or he was the current Swami at that time in London, remarked that Sister Nivedita was the extension or the carryover of Swami Vivekananda. Such a statement was outstanding to many people, but you can see obviously how true it is. Abhindranath Tagore, the great artist, he says, amongst the foreigners who really loved India, Nivedita's place is the highest. I have one objection to this statement, that he used the word foreigner. You see, Sister Nivedita had a mission. It was obvious from all her background. We were discussing a little earlier what this background was. It's very subtle. You won't easily find it in any of her biographies. The whole of her background was orientated toward abolition of slavery, women's rights. And she was a profoundly religious and spiritual person who, in her adulthood, had some conflicts. And she wanted to broaden her understanding, her intellectual understanding. She was above all else an educator. And in educating people, she knew how to come down to a level or go up to a level, and educating not just girls, but educating the movers and shakers, if you will, of India itself, to move them, mobilize them into a state where they were enthusiastic to do something. The Swadeshi movement, for example, for India's freedom. What is the significance of that to the entire world? Well, Swami Vivekananda had this vision. We should bring back the ancient glory of India, because there you find the Vedic philosophy, what we call Vedanta, the heart of so-called Hinduism, the philosophy of Hinduism that is a product of profound insights from rishis, seers, going back thousands of years, we don't know how long, but discovering truths that, if discovered, will affect the freedom and the feeling of freedom in the whole world, not just India. And a question arises and arose amongst the people she was first introduced to in India. Who is this woman? And of course, they would recognize her as an English woman. They won't find any distinction. She was really born in Ireland, but spent not much of her life here, 4 years or so, coming back again, staying with her grandmother, and also coming back in 1908 and staying in the Pembroke Road in the city center, in a place there. But her main reason for coming was not only to discover the glory of her own native place, but it was also to do service to a great friend, Jagadish Chandra Bose, the great scientist, who was so underrated by the British. And so she wrote many of his papers and so on. And there she discovered not only the beauty of her native Ireland, that she also recognized was there in Devon, Torrington, where there's also a monument to her. But during her stay in Wimbledon, Sister Nivedita befriended somebody called Octavius Beattie, who was the editor of the Wimbledon News. You may recognize Wimbledon from tennis. The Wimbledon News was an organ of the Irish Association in England, and political developments at that time drew her to the cause of the Free Ireland group working for Home Rule. And she gave lectures in public meetings, organized centers of resistance in the south of England, and so on. So we can see a wonderful character, not just intellectual, not just a force of energy that she would have gotten inherently that was there, but she would have been inspired by the strength of her master, a match where he saw the inherent strength and goodness in her and the value of an educator. And he saw, and she saw in him a guru, a master, an inspirer, somebody who gave meaning to her life. And so she gave lectures. And therefore, when aggressive movements began in Bengal, Nivedita had no difficulty in associating herself, in offering advice and assistance to their noble cause. Of a few stalwarts distancing themselves from active politics during this crucial time. And you see, thus, in the wake of great movement virtually dying out, many inspired youth took recourse to revolutionary activities. But she wasn't just an intellectual, she wasn't just a revolutionary, if we can put her in that category, or inspire any of revolutionaries, but she had her Irish roots, she had her Celtic blood. She had that same blood that was Indo-European. Even the Celtic language shows traces of this, and we find cultural similarities and historical similarities, of course. But she was also a woman of heart. She knew how to convey a message at the very smallest level. Very often, many of our centers, we don't have Kali Pujas. In London, the minister in charge who was there at one time, Swami Bhavananda, did not allow Kali Puja there, still today, because the English won't accept it. And so he was very sensitive, as Sister Nivedita was, to the culture of the land she was going to assist or contribute toward. Any person who goes there with a missionary endeavor, and every country has its needs. Ireland has its needs. As a Vedanta society, our objective is to propagate in a missionary way, not in an oppressive way, or a sales way, or a marketing way, but to persuade people of the deep value of these profound eternal truths that are contained in Vedanta, that only come and originate from this land of India. And no doubt, we find them everywhere in every culture, sometimes obvious, sometimes hidden, mostly hidden, to reveal this as a panacea for all humanity's difficulties, regardless of race, regardless of nationality, regardless of creed, regardless of color. In order to be empathetic, we have to understand every part of the people we are dealing with. And that means feeling what they feel. Empathy means feeling what you feel, not just sympathy. Sympathy is very superficial. Empathy means I feel what you feel. I feel your pain. I feel your concerns. I feel your poverty. When you hurt, I hurt. And this is the mark of great, great spirituality and great spiritual characters. To have that capacity to fill the other person's shoes, to adopt the other person's culture, to speak their language, to think as they think. It is only by doing this that we can assist people. Same thing in Ireland. I'm not Irish. I came to this land 2006. We are all coming to this land have to try to understand the Irish ways and understand part of the culture. Significant part of the culture is Roman Catholicism. And to understand how things look through those eyes. If you go to Glendalough, you may see a film there in the visitor center trying to explain the missionary endeavor of St. Patrick. Pre-St. Patrick, they say it was all pagan, whatever pagan means. And these pictures of gods and goddesses seem to be sinister, with sinister movement, music. And then St. Patrick comes and beautiful music comes on and everything is nice and Christianity is panacea. And this was the idea that was attempted to be introduced into such countries as India and everywhere where there was colonialism, Africa, India, everywhere. As if the colonial movement was a Christian movement synonymous with it. And there's a superiority there. So you see, the way in which the Irish Roman Catholics view anything that is not Roman Catholic will be, at best, with deep superstition, at worst, as something like all the masks that we're going to put on and decorations for Halloween. Something sinister, something foreign, something weird, something we won't associate with. That is the perspective. So we have a great challenge, the same challenge Sister Nivedita had. How did she overcome it? She went right into the heart of it. And explaining this difficult image of Mother Kali, she does it beautifully. It's one of her, I think it's her first lecture, her first public lecture she gives on Mother Kali. In the very face of British cynicism and the British misunderstanding of Kali. And she writes in a letter to Baby Leggett, as you see, in baby language. You see, you've heard the game of peekaboo, where you put your hands in front of your eyes, then the whole world vanishes. And when the mother puts her hands in front of her eyes, the whole world vanishes. What a beautiful description she puts, removing all the reservations, bringing it to our level, because we are all babies at the end of the day. We are all baby Leggetts with a small baby understanding. So this was the great, great talent. If we were to reveal the personality of Sister Nivedita, of course, we'll be here for hours at a time. And I know you do not have hours at a time. But the mark of a spiritual person is how they view death. And on her dying, she knew this boat is sinking, was her phrase. And she welcomed it cheerfully, having known that in her 44 years, she gave her all to India, marking her as Lokamata, the mother of the world, the mother of India. One of our objectives of this Vedanta Society is to promote her personality, her life, her teachings. And we've only scratched the surface. So I'm very pleased that you all came to celebrate a remarkable life of somebody who saw no nationality, was only tuned in to what the Upanishads call Atman, the divine self that has no gender, has no skin color, has no cultural bias, but only the divine standing there. And this is all our mission, to see the divine in each other and to see this divine self in all beings and all beings in that self, according to Upanishads. This is what we should do in whatever form we like, because this abstract entity is brought down with a wonderful symbolism that is rich in the Hindu culture, and therefore removing all the difficulties, the bias, the extensions of egoism, which is there within us. And I think my time is up. So thank you. Welcome again. And please enjoy the remaining of the program.
Thank you, Swamiji, for that wonderful overview on Sister Nivedita in the short time that we have here. We now, next on our program, we have a dance performance by students of the Mayuri Dance School. We will just need a couple of minutes as we set up the place for them. Thank you. Bear with us. Thank you.
Paripalaya Paramesi Kamalalaya Shri Devi Kudipinchave Karuna Murasi Drinkarasi Jasula
Thank you to the students of the Mayuri Dance School for that lovely dance recital. We now have Pritish Majumdar sharing his thoughts and talk on Sister Nivedita. Pritish.
Thank you. Thank you. Pranam Swamis, and welcome all of you. A wonderful performance by the kids. So thank you guys first. I will take next 5 minutes, not more than 5 minutes, less than that, to tell you about how, as a common Indian, Nivedita had influenced us. Influenced me, rather. I'll not talk about everybody, influenced me. So, I grew up in India, and incidentally, the place I came from very childhood, we got exposed to Nivedita. It's not that we came to know Nivedita 10 years back, 15 years back. I remember my first exposure to Nivedita was when I was probably as young as you. I was taken to a movie. My friends, my parents, it was early 70s. It was a Bengali movie, black and white movie. It was an autobiographical movie of, and the name of the movie was Sister Nivedita. In our Bengali, it was called Bhogini Nivedita. It was not a new movie. It was 10 years old or 12 years old then. And, it had got the Best Feature Film Award in 1962 in India. That movie, it actually competed with films of Satyajit Ray that year. And it was the Best Feature Film. And watch that movie. I will tell you, me, my friends, and while we were coming back from the movie, my parents spoke to me. We were all spellbound, like we also an Irish lady educated in England. Forget it, I didn't even know what is Ireland and England. It was a foreigner for us. Loving so much India, doing for India, me discussed with my parents that can we Indians love our country that much? And that was like I will say, that was the starting point when I started knowing Nivedita. Post that, I read the books. I studied in Ramakrishna Mission, so I got introduced to many other things. I will not read a lot of things from here, but over the years, I now recollect that how I saw Nivedita influencing my life, my daily life. Swamiji has stolen a lot of my thunder. On many points I had has already been spoken by him, but doesn't matter. I won't repeat a lot of them. But yeah. So one of the biggest thing that I see this picture of Ma Sharada that we worship daily was taken in Nivedita's house. That's the only time Ma Sarada Ma had agreed to a photograph organized by Nivedita. Every time I look at that picture, I remember, okay, this is one of Nivedita's contribution. Or daily I watch this. And as I told you, when I came back from the movie, we were thinking, this is a foreigner. This is an English lady. And I will tell you, when she landed in India, similar was the experience. And I will tell you, read out a small excerpt from one of the very famous poets of India, Rabindranath Tagore. So he writes, and this is a translation, obviously. When I saw Sister Nivedita for the first time, she had freshly arrived. I had a notion that she must be like the usual kind of English missionary ladies, except for religious persuasions. It was this notion which made me propose that she take charge of my daughter's education. She asked, what kind of education would you like me to give her? My reply was that a good grounding in English and English-based education, that would do. So Nivedita's response was, what good is it, she asked, to force education down the throat? For me, real education is to draw out and develop the knowledge and skill which tradition has handed down and the aptitudes acquired by the child, not to subject them to a steamroller of regimentation, which goes by that name of English-based education in India. Broadly speaking, my own views were not at variance with hers. With this response from Nivedita, this was one of the biggest motivators for Tagore to open his own university, which is run under absolutely Indian culture and Indian education system, Indian languages, Indian. So what I wanted to say till here was Nivedita was able to think much beyond, much advanced than what we were. Even what she did that time in 1970s, me and my parents, we were discussing, my friend were discussing that, is this like, can we do this today also? And when I look back, gradually all the other things I picked up, the different areas, when she tried to do this, I will suggest you read one of her latest, the last books or last essay called Aggressive Hinduism. It doesn't have any aggression actually. It says that to be the right Hindu, to develop your culture, to develop yours, you have to develop all around. It's not only spiritualism. It's not only your love for God. And I think she got that from Swami Vivekananda. And I will list down some 5, 6, rather actually 9 items where I saw her looking at and focusing. And Swamiji, you covered some of them. So Nivedita, as you have seen her response to Tagore, she insisted that Indian history should be written by Indians, not by Englishmen, British, or people from other countries. And she actually supported a lot of Indian historians. One of them is Dinesh Chandra Sen, to translate their Bengali Indian history book to English. She influenced our national movement. She felt that, okay, not only history, national movement is very important. And the Swadeshi part of it. You know, a big part of all these movements are the media. During those point of time, the English media was fully British supporters. She would come and talk to those editors and convince them that why they should support this Swadeshi movement of it. She has no business to do that. She came again as a foreigner. We won't call her a foreigner, but she did more than as what I did as an Indian. She masked up support for the partition of Bengal. I don't know how many of you know, in 1905, the British split our country, and the state where I grew up, into 2 parts by religion. Muslims go here, Hindus go. She masked up support for revolution against that. She actually came to the government and proposed that that day should be celebrated as Unity Day for our life next decades. Nivedita, also, as you said, Maharaj, she supported science, supported arts, like Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bosu, Abanindranath Tagore, Nandalal Bosu. She even proposed and worked with the government to get the Indian Institute of Science set up. So she was one of the main influencer over there. Obviously, it came up with the Vivekananda's thing. Another thing which, when I came to know about this, I was very, very intrigued that before our Indian national flag came, Nivedita designed the national flag for us. A red flag with 2 Vajras crisscrossing each other. That's not our national flag, but that she has been able to think through all these different ways, which she says is that this is the aggressive way you have to grow. This is not only doing spiritualism, not every part of your life. She was a pioneer in education. She started her own school, women's education, women's empowerment. And one thing that I still remember from that movie, and I was really as little as this girl, when in 1899 the plague was there, how she had gone out and taken charge. And people were surprised looking at a foreigner taking a broomstick in hand and sweeping the roads. So this is what that I had to say, that Nivedita has influenced people like us who grew up in India. We didn't study about Nivedita, but every day these were discussed. And I was lucky to have this. I'm very happy to come here and land up in this. So where Nivedita is revered and respected over here. She wrote this book, Aggressive Hinduism. She spoke of aggression and victory of character and spiritual power over human frailties and mundane interest. And, you know, for children, another book that she has got again on Hinduism is the Cradle Stories of Hinduism. Nicely written, fables, stories about each of our gods, goddess, Shiva, Kali, Durga, which we have read when we were children in school. With that, pranams to everybody. Finish my talk. Just wanted to say how Nivedita has influenced me and probably many other Indians who grew up. And I was lucky I grew up in that part of the country where she's still very highly respected. Thank you.
Thank you, Pritish. That was really wonderful. And I think we are all now going to look out and find that book and read it. Well, we now have amongst us again, students from the Mayuri Dance School to perform another dance recital. Thank you. We now have another very familiar and very known person amidst us, giving us our next talk, Adrian Christie from Dublin Interfaith Society. Again, another person who is very, very much associated with our center here. And again, needs no further welcome. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't deserve the introduction. I'll take it anyway. but you're right, the girls were wonderful, were great. I think it's difficult to find a dance that shows more grace and beauty than the Indian classical dance. So very well done. Swamis, ladies and gentlemen, friends, I'm delighted to be here again, like you mentioned. And I bring you greetings from our wider group, our wider interfaith family, the Interfaith Forum. And although I feel I know very little about Nivedita, and I also feel like I will be repeating some of the things that have been said about her by the eloquent speakers ahead of me. But I also took some notes, and I want to share some thoughts about Nivedita. As I said, until about 5 years ago, I didn't know much about Nivedita. Swami at that time started mentioning a few things. So we decided to approach the Dublin City Council in the city centre and organize an event just to raise awareness. So that was the first time when the City Interfaith Forum organized the first conference on Sister Nivedita. About this time of the year, 5 or 6 years ago, 2016, I think. And it was the Lord Mayor, Krina Daly, who supported us and came along, and she gave a very good talk, and she was very interested in finding out who Nivedita was. It's beside the point, but we find out that almost every Irish person that we mention, Sister Nivedita or Margaret Noble, they know very little. So there's a lot of work for us all to do to raise awareness about who she was and her legacy. After that event, I think that event was the trigger of many other initiatives and programs, trips to Dungannon, conferences. There was a puppet show as well in Crumlin. So bit by bit, we're beginning to tell the story and let people know about who she was. I'm not sure if you recall, but 2 years ago when we were in the middle of the pandemic and everything was happening online, you organized another celebration on the event, and on that day, among other things, I've asked the question whether we needed a Sister Nivedita at that difficult time. So with that question, I've tried to outline some of her work that made an impact, made change in where she worked, and highlighted some of the aspects and the causes that she supported and the causes that were dear to her heart. Some of it were mentioned by my previous colleague here, and that one of them was the cause of educating girls and caring for patients. I also found out that she opened the Ramakrishna Mission Sister Nivedita Girls' School, after a voyage to the West to collect funds for that project. She also cared for patients, cleaned up areas, encouraged the youth to partake in community services during the plague epidemic in Calcutta. So that's why I thought it was relevant 2 years ago to mention that endeavor. She later devoted her life to the nationalist movement in India and worked on her own and maintained a direct relationship with many of the young revolutionaries of Bengal. Herself, Sister Nivedita, in a lecture in 1902, said, "If India had no unity herself, no unity could be given to her. The unity which undoubtedly belonged to India was self-born and has had its own destiny, its own functions, and its own vast powers, but it was the gift of no one." She inspired the youth to fight for the cause of India's freedom through her lectures. It is also said that she provided financial support and even leveraged her contacts to get information from government agencies to forewarn freedom fighters. Along with Indian artists like Rabindranath Tagore, Nanda Kunnaramara Swami, and E.B. Howell, Nivedita is known to have shaped the Bengal School of Art. Like it was mentioned, in 1905, she designed the flag for India, which had 2 crossed thunderbolts on a red background. She introduced the song Vande Mataram in her school as a prayer. She supported Swami Vivekananda's work on the value of religious tolerance, which articulated a theology of interfaith cooperation, and invited his colleagues of other faiths to do the same. We know that she died in October 1911 on the 13th at the age of 44 in Darjeeling, and inscribed on her tombstone are the words, "Here reposes Sister Nivedita, who gave her all to India." Her book, Kali the Mother, motivated Tagore, who painted Bharat Mata. In her memory, many schools and colleges have named after her, and the government of India issued a postage stamp in 1968 to commemorate her work. So there's a lot to be inspired by a leader such as Nivedita. And we must do more than search for common values. We must learn to make space for difference, even and especially at the heart of our own monotheistic imagination. The global future will call for something stronger than the earlier doctrines of toleration and pluralism. It will need a new understanding that the unity of the Creator is expressed in the diversity of creation. The test of faith is whether we could make space for difference. Can I recognize God's image of someone whose image, language, and faith ideals are different than mine? If I cannot, then I have made God in my image instead of allowing him to meet me as he is. just as the natural environment depends on diversity. The human environment depends on human cultural diversity because no one civilization encompasses all the spiritual, ethical, and artistic expressions of humanity. Failure to respect diversity has led to so many tragedies in our history of mankind. So I leave you with a question again. Do we need a Sister Nivedita again during this difficult times? Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian, once again. We now have Brian O'Halloran joining us online and presenting an Irish song, a Gaelic song. Over to you, Brian.
Thank you, Rai. Pranams to Swami Purnananda, Swami Shantiratananda, and Swami Ishatmananda. And I'm honored by the invitation to sing a song for you today. I'm going to sing a translation of Swami Purnananda's poem, which he penned many years ago, Celtic Lioness. And I will also then sing in English. Can you hear me? Can I be heard?
Yes, I hear you.
No? Thank you. O hi shahoige intervene, mir noch kriebelot hanten. We sind na gaan volle vochtelens, nanedisch ham, she kan stroom. Du lichte de volle vochtelraum, Marstel onder fui khali shod Barlos na ushla fui yod Val chashin intna kordachat yash Nivedita, 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 Nivedita O Isha hoige intervied, mir noch krieg de locht ranken. Es sind in Augen verfachterlich, mernedisch chamshi gan entthron. Du lichte de verfachterlich, Master onder fui khali shows Barlus na ushla fui yod Val chashin intna korda khaldash Nivedita, 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 Nivedita She had from early childhood days, and in her heart she served the poor. And coaxed young minds towards the best. New thoughts, desire for deeper truth to draw, an Eastern master in strange guise. In refined ladies' drawing room, he too did coax the seeking mind.
Thank you, Brian. That was beautiful. We now have amidst us our devotee, Georgiana, who is going to share her thoughts on Sister Nivedita. With you, Georgie.
Welcome, everyone. Pranam Swamiji. when I was asked to talk about Sister Nivedita, my first reaction was, I don't know much about her. But I took this opportunity to research a little bit, and I approached it with trying to generally answer some questions. First of all, I wanted to generally understand who she is. And second, I wanted to understand why did she do this? You know, how many of us would leave our native country, and even if we want to serve, would rather serve locally where we understand the environment rather than go to an unknown country where we decide to spend the rest of our days. So I'll go through a couple of things I have read about her, trying to answer these questions. And of course, I really wanted to understand the milestone of when she met Swami Vivekananda, because we hear often she met Swami Vivekananda, she was impacted by that meeting, and then she moved to India. Again, I was like, how does this happen? It's not so simple. So first of all, who is Margaret Elizabeth Noble? So we find that she is an Irish-born educator. She's a writer. She was a very good speaker. She's a social activist. She was interested and read a lot about education. She was a school founder. She then became the disciple of Swami Vivekananda and later a political activist in India. So she met Swami Vivekananda in 1895. And then she embraced this philosophy of Vedanta and followed him to India as a disciple. And then she became a member of the Ramakrishna mission. So that's historically, we know a little bit about her. I wanted to know a little bit about what is her background, her upbringing, her education, how was her character shaped that led to the later later activities in India. So I found that her father, Samuel Noble, was a pastor. He taught that service to mankind is the true service to God. So we see already the influence there. I also learned that there are 6 children. So Margaret had 5 other siblings, and unfortunately 3 of them died. So Margaret, May, another sister May, and a brother Richmond survived. So that was interesting for me because we heard from Swamiji often about how early encounter with death can really change us, and that dealing with the pain of loss and the questions that brings. I learned that when her father conducted services or visited the poor, Margaret accompanied him often. I also learned that Margaret's father died when she was 10 years old. So again, another encounter with death and loss and all those questions that brings. I then learned that Margaret, with her mother and 2 siblings, returned to her grandfather's home in Ireland. And Margaret's mother took up a kindergarten course in London and became a teacher. So I think this is how she was exposed to teaching and education through her mother. We jump a little bit, and then we learned that Margaret was educated at Halifax College, where she studied several subjects. She studied physics, art, music, and literature. And then at 17, she first started a career in teaching at a school in Keswick. She went to teach in an orphanage. Again, she shows her spirit of service and love for the poor. She became engaged to a Welsh youth who died soon after the engagement. So this is her 3rd exposure with death. So I can only imagine the impact that had on her life and how the questions that raised. Margaret then moved in 1889. She moved to Chester and resumed her studies in the field of education. She was very interested in education, and she read widely. She studied ideas of education reformers Pestalozzi and Froebel, who emphasized the importance of preschool education and learning through play, which were very new ideas for that time. So if we think about nowadays, we have Montessori. There is a lot of emphasis on learning through play, but for that age, that was very new. And not only did she learn about it, but she put it into practice with another group of teachers. They started a school to actually implement these new ideas. She then became a favorite writer and speaker at the Sunday Club and the Liverpool Science Club. About this same time, so she was in her 20s, she really started having a sort of spiritual crisis. So she was in spiritual search. She was exposed to the Christian doctrine, but she started challenging that a lot. She was very liberal. She emphasized equality, women's rights, and there's some issues with a Christian approach to that. She started looking into natural science. Then she read about the life of Buddha. So she was interested in Buddhism. And finally, through meeting Swami Vivekananda, she got to know about Vedanta. And this obviously was very appealing for her. So on one side, by now, we know that she is inclined towards selfless service. She's very charitable. She has a big heart, but we also find her as a very thoughtful young lady, independent, self-driven, so very action-oriented. Then let's move on to the next part. What motivated her to dedicate her life to India? And where did she get the courage to leave her native country and spend the rest of her days in India? So a milestone in her life was when she met Swami Vivekananda in England in November 1895. She attended several of his talks, and she was gradually, she got to know gradually more and more about his teachings and the philosophy that he was teaching. They exchanged written correspondence within the next 2 years before the idea of moving to India started forming. So it wasn't instant. It's not like she met and all of a sudden she went to India. It took a while. She asked a lot of questions. She challenged him a lot, which reminds us of Swami Vivekananda asking questions and challenging Sri Ramakrishna. So she wasn't a type of character that's very submissive. She really wanted to be convinced. Okay, so a bit about the role that Swami Vivekananda played in her life. So I'll now read one or two quotes. So obviously, Vivekananda's principles and teaching influenced her and the way she was thinking about religion and spirituality. But this transition was not smooth. There was a lot of inner struggle. There was a lot of conflict. And a lot of what she learned from Swami Vivekananda was actually in conflict with her prior knowledge and beliefs. She believed that the British Empire is benevolent and is doing a lot of good, but Swami Vivekananda challenged that. She wasn't very happy with that, but she got to see his perspective. She also learned, when she moved to India, she learned about Gita, she learned about Vedanta, both from Swami Vivekananda, but also from Swami Swarupananda, who also taught her meditation, which she took on and also fundamentally her perspective. So two quotes from the book Sister Nivedita by Pravachika Atma Prana. To note a few of us, the words of Swami Vivekananda came as living water to men perishing of thirst. Many of us had been conscious for years past of the growing uncertainty and despair with regard to religion, which has beset the intellectual life of Europe for half a century. Belief in the dogmas of Christianity had become impossible to us, and we had no means such as we now hold by which to separate the doctrinal shell from the kernel of reality in our faith. To this, the Vedanta has given intellectual confirmation and philosophical expression of their own mistrusted intuitions. So that's one part where we can see the role that Swami Vivekananda and Vedanta as a philosophy played in her thinking. And I would like to end with another quote from her own words from a letter she wrote to one of her friends, where we can see her inner transformations, how she shifted her thinking from the spiritual crisis. And I should have mentioned she had spiritual yearning. It wasn't just a crisis. She really strongly yearned for learning and the spiritual development. So a bit on her inner transformation. I am learning a great deal. That there is a certain definite quality which may be called spirituality, that it is worth having, that the soul may long for God as the heart for human love, that nothing that I have ever called nobility or unselfishness was anything but the feeblest qualities compared to the fierce white light of real selflessness. It is strange that it has taken me so long to make me see these elementary truths clearly, isn't it? At present, it is of course just groping in the dark, asking an opinion here and there and sifting evidence. Someday, I hope to have first-hand knowledge and to give it to others with full security of truth. So I stop here. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Georgina. That was really very beautifully presented. Wonderful synopsis covering Sister Nivedita's background and touching upon all the salient points. Very, very beautifully presented. Thank you once again. We now have the benedictory talk by Swami Ishatmanandaji, who would be joining us online from Chicago. Swami Ishatmanandaji is the minister in charge of Vedanta Center of Chicago. Pranam Swamiji.
Namaskar.
I had the pleasure of having Swamiji in our center amidst us, and we have you amidst us today again. We feel blessed to have you amongst us. Pranam.
So it is a really excellent opportunity for me sitting over here in Chicago. I am observing the program that you are functioning over there. And the wonderful way the young lady, just now she was telling about the sister Nivedita. Sister Nivedita is always an inspiration. I had the opportunity to visit the Ireland and the places that are associated with Sister Nivedita. And every time I was going over there, I was feeling as if we have come for a pilgrim places, the holy place. A person whose mind is broad, whose mind is breaking all boundaries of selfishness, is a holy person. So when Sister Nivedita met Swami Vivekananda somewhere in London, she was already prepared, already ready, and her mind was ready. And that is the reason when the call came from Swami Vivekananda, without any hesitation, she went over there and took up all the hardship that she was in London. At that time, the Great Britain was ruling almost the half of the world or more than that. And India was subjugated by the Great Britain. And from there, she was going to serve those Indian people. And you can imagine in the beginning of the 19th century and the 18th century, the society, Indian society, Orthodox society, so they were afraid. They were closing their windows, they were closing their doors. They never wanted to mix. And Swami Vivekananda very clearly told Sister Nivedita, you have come to serve these people, to help these people. And I need a lioness so that you can give education among the women and the girls. Now the Indian ladies, Indian girls, those who are educated, they do not know how the things happen. Because of the social condition, they were behind the curtains. There was no education at all. Those who have read the biography of Ma Sharadamani Devi, you all know. Because of that, the women education was completely taboo. There was no women education. And Sister Nivedita was the first one who was trying to do that. And Swami Vivekananda said, all my blessings are with you, but you have to face the situation. And do not criticize about those people to me. So like that, you can understand a completely new person going over there. And slowly she developed the friendship with all the community and community leaders, impressed them. Of course, Swami Vivekananda from the back helped her. And she gave a wonderful talk about the goddess Kali. The goddess Kali was the most criticized goddess of the Hindus in those days. That some of the people are not knowing the meaning of the goddess, they used to criticize. And among them, Europeans and Indians both were there. And Sister Nivedita gave a beautiful lecture, and sitting in that periphery of the temple is still there. And then she started the school. That was the first time bringing education to the Orthodox family girls. There were some of the ladies that used to go to the school, Bethune College was there, but that too, not for the Orthodox Hindu families. They were for some of the Brahmo families. So to understand the Nivedita, we have to understand the social condition, the then social condition. And she came to America, she traveled the many places to collect funds to serve India. Can you imagine the broadness, the Catholicity, the wonderful love for those people? And if she is not an angel, then who? So we always consider Sister Nivedita as a great goddess Saraswati, that she came in that form. And not only that, she knew only education can't help India. The India needs freedom. As Swami Vivekananda, our guru, said, freedom, freedom, freedom. Freedom is the first condition of growth. And there, she started working for the freedom. She started inspiring the educated people, younger people, to understand that freedom is necessary. Don't be afraid to fight against the Britishers. Claim that whatever you deem to get, you must get it. So that was the way she was inspiring. She was having regular contact with the then high society people like the Tagore's family. Rabindranath and others were very much influenced by the Sister Nivedita. Then the Aurobindo Ghosh, he was highly inspired by Sister Nivedita. Anywhere you see the Indian culture, the Indian painting, the Indian songs, the Indian history, the religion, each and every aspect, she was really a master. Some of the books that she has written, if you read the footfalls of Indian history, the wonderful way she has given the description of India. Friends, you are sitting in her land, in the birthplace, and that lady that she was talking about, the Sister Nivedita, the whole country should be proud for her. Whole Ireland should be proud for her. Why? Because this type of character, this type of personality, they become the bridge between the two great nations. The Sister Nivedita became the bridge between the India and Ireland, between India and the whole Western world. She brought all these wonderful experiences of the world about the freedom through education. And why Swami Vivekananda asked to give the education to the women? Because Swami Vivekananda knew a society cannot make any progress without the help of the women. It's like a bird that cannot fly with one wing. The bird needs two wings. So that's why it was necessary. You know that Swami Vivekananda wanted one educated lady to bring from India to America, and she should give a talk in English so that the people, the Western people, American people, they should know that Indian ladies are also educated. They're also cultured. Because of the wrong propaganda for a long period of time against the Indian society, those who have read the biography of Swami Vivekananda, you know, majority of the places Swamiji had to face the one question: is it true, Swamiji, that the firstborn of the mothers, they throw them in the face of the crocodiles? The Swamiji got disgusted, and in a sarcastical way, he said, yes, true. My mother maybe has thrown me in the face of a crocodile, but I was so flabby, the crocodile couldn't eat me. So I have come back to give a talk over here in America. So sarcastically, he was replying, and he was feeling so sorry. In those days, Swamiji wanted the lady to come over here to speak. There was only one lady who could speak in English, was Sharula Bala Devi, the niece of Rabindranath Tagore. Many of you know these stories. And Swamiji wanted her to come, but she was not allowed to come. So this is the Sister Nivedita. And Swamiji told that at this moment, the Indian women, they cannot give education for themselves. Now you have to come. You are the lioness I want, but you have to make your own thing all. So friends, this is a unique opportunity to remember this pure heart. And when we are talking about the Sister Nivedita, our mind is also becoming pure. And you know what is purity? Purity means unselfishness. And we see the unselfishness 100% in this Margaret Noble, Sister Nivedita. The people become so much jealous for all this thing. For little bit thing, they will be fighting. So we cannot give away. But the moment we know that we can give away, and that very moment we become pure. So we try, and then the selfishness comes in, then once again we walk into this worldly life. And that is the reason we cannot give peace ourselves, and we cannot also give peace and inspiration to others. But Sister Nivedita, an excellent character. Then finally, when everything was done, when she inspired the Indian freedom movement, she inspires the Indian educationist. She inspired the Indian arts and culture. She inspired the the life of the Indian ladies. And not only that, she educated and trained a band of young ladies to continue her work. She retired into Himalaya. She went into Darjeeling, and there, looking at the sun, and she is to pray constantly. You'll be happy that that particular building has been acquired by the Ramakrishna Mission, and now it is an ashrama. And next time when I'm going to visit the India, I have a great mind to go that particular place and bow down to the place where Sister Nivedita used to sit and meditate. So I am very happy that you have given me the opportunity to share my views about this great soul who was none other than the purity herself. She got the blessings of the mother, Ma Sharadamani Devi, and she was the cookie, the little girl of the Divine Mother, Ma Sharada. And she was a great, we can say the torch of Swami Vivekananda, who carried the message of Swami Vivekananda all through her life. Vivekananda's message was, the Sister Nivedita asked Vivekananda, what is the philosophy? What is your philosophy? And in reply, Swamiji said, my philosophy can be said in 2 sentences: to make people aware about their divine nature and to help them to manifest it. Let the divine nature, which is love, which is unselfishness, manifest in us, in all of us, and let this world become a heaven. And in this connection, I was thinking that Sister Nivedita can become a very good source to develop friendship between the Ireland and India. So thank you. Thank you, Swamijis. Thank you, friends. Be always be happy and healthy. That is my prayer. Thank you for giving the opportunity. Namaskar.
Pranam Maharaj, thank you for that beautiful talk. And we now have Swami Shantivivekanandaji, our minister in charge here, to give us the vote of thanks. Thank you, Maharaj.
Jai Ram Krishna. My reverential pranams to Swami Ishatmanji Maharaj. So nicely, in just like a small pep talk, he gave a wonderful picture of Sister Nivedita. What is Sister Nivedita? What was her contribution to India, in particular, and the world at large, and what can we learn from Sister Nivedita's life and achievements? And also, wonderfully, Prithvish, he beautifully portrayed what is Sister Nivedita to me. What did I got inspiration? What did I learn few lessons from her? Now, Jardana was also asked her, she was telling, Swami, I don't know much about Sister Nivedita. Then I said, this is a wonderful chance for you to study or know about Sister Nivedita. Then, of course, she made a wonderful, portrait of Sister Nivedita. It was all wonderful. Of course, Sister Nivedita was attracted towards Swami Vivekananda's message or Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism. Why? Because thousands of years before, the Sanatana Dharma or the philosophy of the Hindu land or India told, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. The truth is one, we call by different names, that's all. So we don't believe that our God is only God, our religion is only religion, our scriptures are only scriptures, our culture or our thinking is the only thinking. That's why Swami Vivekananda said in Chicago's Parliament of Religions, we don't only tolerate, we accept. We don't believe in tolerance, we believe in universal acceptance. That's what stands for Vedanta. That's what stands for, I mean, again, Hinduism or India. If you say 5,000 or 10,000 years of history, if you see, everywhere the same thing, the manliness, the humanity, the philosophy, from all different aspects, if you've seen India or in Vedanta, in Sanatana Dharmas, ideas and ideals, this is seen very clearly. So like, for an example, many of the countries of Europe, they went all over the world and they tried to colonize. And most of the time, they try to impose their culture on them. They try to impose their gods, their scriptures, their thinking on others. But from India, from Rome and Greece time, they had connections between entire world. They had been philosophers, they had been leaders, they had been teachers gone everywhere, but they never imposed their ideas. They all gave their ideas. Look, we have got these ideas, wonderful ideas. You are free to accept or receive. If you feel so, there's a truth. And for this, recently I had been one of the devotees' house for a housewarming ceremony. There I was doing a puja. So before doing puja, at every step I was telling the philosophical and spiritual significance behind this worship. And all were Irish people only, all were native Irish. They were all dumbfounded. 45 to 50 minutes they sat, and with all reverence, they were hearing, that they were knowing. And after the worship, they said, oh, such a beautiful and very spiritual atmosphere. We felt it, and we never knew there is such a science, there is such a deep meaning and significance behind this worship. So like that, probably we have to understand each other, we have to go forward. And unfortunately, as most of the Indians we know, the great Irish lady's life and legacy, that is Margaret Noble or Sister Nivedita. But in Ireland, we hardly people know about the greatness or the achievements of Sister Nivedita. In her name, our center has been started more than a decade, but we have made very less progress in that. Probably we have to make much more progress in teaching the Irish people about the great lady, about Sister Nivedita. Such today's program, like we shall organize much more programs like this, probably in the city center and different parts of Ireland, so that let them understand the life and legacy of Sister Nivedita and also about Vedanta. And after this, dear devotees, we will have a 10 minutes Vesper service. After the Vesper service, we will have a tea and snacks. So yeah, I request all the devotees to have the tea and snacks and leave. On November 3rd week, around 2nd or 3rd week, we have got carols competition for children. So now many of the children are there. So from age group from 5 to 16, we will have different category people. So whomever is required in a week or so, we will distribute the flyers and all. You can register your names, any male or female in the Nivedita house. We will have a carols competition as a part of Christmas celebrations. We'll have a joy, we'll have a fun. So all are welcome. Thank you. Thank you one and all who have helped for this function. And of course, Peter and their group, whenever we call, they all come and they do a lot of bhajans and devotional singing. They're all moved by your kind gesture. Thank you. Thank you all the devotees and all the young children, kids. They did a wonderful program.
Hymn 3, please. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj